This is Diana Sullivan. I get a lot of questions about tubular knitting, also called circular knitting. Now, I needed a new slipper pattern for a project. I've done a lot of slipper patterns, but this time I needed something quick to knit, washable, and it needed to cover the ankle for warmth. I wrote two patterns, and this first one is tubular. It requires a bulky machine like this one with a ribbing attachment. I'm doing something a little different just now. I'd like to post more often, but not such long, complicated videos. I thought it would be great to have a group of videos devoted to tubular knitting. So I'm putting up several short videos with one tubular skill in each one. I'm also beginning a playlist of tubular techniques. For those of you who purchase this quick tubular slipper pattern, there's a specific non-public video with all the techniques in order, with no ads or announcements, a video you can watch as you knit your first tubular slipper or simply use for reference. If you want to make other slipper or sock patterns, I have a large variety of interesting options down in the description box. I have resources for circular sock machines, single bed no-sew socks, circular standard gauge socks, and all kinds of slippers. Now let's get started with this technique. Here's a tubular technique that you may never have done. You can actually short row a heel on the flatbed knitting machine with the ribber. The way this works is this side of the slipper or sock is on the ribber and this side is on the main bed, and you can short row this heel on the main bed only. There's a little controversy about this. Some people like to do it using the ribber coupler, but I prefer to do it by changing to the regular sinker plate while leaving the sock on there in tubular setup. It's not hard to do at all, and I get a very reliable short row. I've also got a technique that helps a little bit at least with avoiding the holes by the heel. We can do short rowing even though we have the ribber installed. It's not even a really difficult process if you just know how. So on my sock, I've knitted the hem, I've knitted the ankle, and now this is really a slipper. It would be too thick for a sock. Here's the heel that I'm going to make. This side is the ribber. This side is the main carriage. And so as I knit, this is hanging down, this isn't knitted yet, and what I'm going to do is knit up, going smaller, smaller, smaller with the short rows. Then I'm going to get bigger, bigger, bigger with the short rows, and that makes this nice little pocket that fits so well on a foot. Let's do a little bit of setup before we start the short rowing. It is possible to do short rowing with this ribber coupler on, but it's a little problematic. Once in a while you'll drop a stitch. When you drop a stitch in ribbing, it's a big pain to pick it up because it's hard to get in there and you can't see very well. I'm going to drop the ribber a little bit and unthread this coupler. Then I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to use the other piece. This is the sinker plate from the main bed. Goes on there. Just line it up, tighten the little wheels. The ribber's going to do nothing for a few minutes. It's dropped out of the way. Here, have a peek. It's just going to sit down there. That carriage is doing nothing. So I tighten this up. I'm going to pop this button out because I'm going to knit in both directions. I'm going to push this lever to the right on this brother. Do whatever your machine does for short rowing. It goes from N to H on the brother, and you're going to change Russell levers on both sides on a studio. Now I'm going to take this yarn, which is my slipper yarn, and I'm going to thread this regular sinker plate. I'll just check my threading, it's all good. And I'm going to short row. So let's look at the knitting part of this and see how to do that short row. I am going to decrease 1 stitch on the carriage side each time until I get down to only 8 stitches in work. So less, 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 less. And I will simply bring a needle out on the carriage side. I'll lift up as I approach. I want to pull this a little tight because it stretched it to drop the ribbon. And knit to the left. And then on the left, I'm going to bring a needle out like I did on the right, knit to the right. Now you can do this a few times, and then you'll discover that you really need to add weight. I can already tell this is getting loose in here because the weight isn't pulling it down. I need to add weight. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to use these weight hangers. They come with your ribber. And I'm going to use the small weights. They also come with the ribber. I'm going to put it about here. I just reach behind the knitting between the beds and I just poke it in where I want it, and then I hang a weight on it. And you can see the little teeth sticking through. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the left-hand side. I want to put it about there. And when I say about there, let me be a little more precise. I want to be in the middle of this stitch, which is the one I'm going to knit, and this stitch in the middle, the number 1 needle. So I put that on. You can see the little teeth poking toward me. And I've already pulled this needle, so I can keep on short rowing. I'm going to go down to needle number 4 left and 4 right. Right now I'm on 6. So I've done all the decreases because there are only 8 stitches still in work. And every time I get in the middle of short rowing a toe or a heel, whenever I get to the narrowest part, that's when I move my weights. So I've taken this weight out, and here's where I'm going to put it. As close as I can get to the center, and as close as I can get up here in the top of the knitting. So poking that in there as best I can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it really does help to move the weights. So there they are, crowded in the middle. And now I can do the increases. Increases are a little different. To avoid making a bunch of holes, I have to go with this yarn here under this first needle, and then I have to push it back so that the latch just touches those stitches. Then I can knit across and over here under, and I use my fingers to push it back. I've done it a lot. I know just how far to push. This goes really quickly. Last one on the right, last one on the left, and time to get back into circular knitting. So we got to do some changing. I'm taking off the main bed sinker plate, opening the feeder and just getting that off. We're going to go back to the ribber feeder. So we'll put this on, tighten the little screws, and I'm going to take this yarn and thread it carefully. Always make sure I thread properly because it only has this little metal finger to hold that where it belongs. Push the ribber back up into place and snap the 2 carriages together. Now I still have my circular setting on the ribber, but I don't have it anymore on the main carriage. I need to push in, the rightmost button, that's the right part button, and now I could continue to knit. But I still have another thing or two to do. Let's look at that. I've zoomed into the knitting in the middle of the bed, and if I just go from right to left, it's going to make a hole here. We need a way to wrap this needle. That would be the needle before the first main bed needle, and I have the easiest way to do that, and it just works great. So I've lined my needles back up, because when you get rid of a gap, usually your needles are out of alignment. I bring this rightmost needle up like that, and it's up about 1/4 inch, less than a centimeter, folks, and I'm going to go behind it with this yarn, and then I'm going to go in front of it into the hook and push it back down. Now, I didn't push it up enough to drop that end stitch, but what I've got on here now is 2 loops. I have the end stitch and the loop I just put on it by going behind and then in front. And when I go across, I'm going to knit on the main bed, but as I approach, I'm going to pull this upper yarn up just to keep this tight, because we want to eliminate any heel hole that we can eliminate. By the way, this short row routine is the same thing I do in my sock book. So if you're interested in making standard gauge, mostly seamless socks on your standard gauge machine, that's the book for you. It has 12 sizes from kids through adults. Now, I'm going to knit the ribbon stitches next, and again, I want to pull up as I approach. After you do a heel, the obvious thing that you do is a foot. So here was my heel, and I'm going to knit circular from here to here, tubular, and make my foot. Now, this particular size is 42 rows, and I've already done 2 because I went across and back to just sort of close that back into circular. So I'm going to set my row counter to 2 because I need to do 40 more. And when I do my 40 more, I will be ready to do the toe shaping. You have to have a little faith since you can't see between the beds, but let me illustrate. What's in between the beds right now is the hem with some waist yarn that this finished sock doesn't have, and the ankle, and the heel, and we're about to do this now. So all I do for that part of the tubular knitting is I knit 40 more rows. Here is that heel up close on a finished slipper. It doesn't totally eliminate the hole on the side. Here's the other side. And I think the reason that it doesn't is because I have to gap the bed in order to do the short rowing. I've played around with using the ribbon coupler and having no space between the beds, and then it's very difficult to get the fabric to feed properly, and you easily end up with missed stitches or drop stitches. I have found this works the best for me, and I think you can think of lots of ways that you could use short rowing with your ribbon. For instance, you could use it to shape a hemline, or a neck, or a bust dart, as well as using it on heels and toes. Do you like this content? Don't forget to like and subscribe. That helps me reach more machine knitters, and believe it or not, I reach people that are not machine knitters. They get interested and take up our hobby. See you next time.